We're going to get started because actually I really like to be punctual. And as people come in, that'll be fine. So we are representing the Brown University Teacher Preparation Program, Master of Arts in Teaching. And the main question that we're asking ourselves is how can we more deeply serve the needs of urban schools in Providence and around the country? And hopefully as you look and listen to our program and the mission, you'll come to understand how we're hoping to fulfill that goal. Great. So I'm Diane Silva-Pimentel. I'm the interim director of the teacher education program, and I'm also the person who oversees the science cohort. With me on my left, I have Kashmil McKenna, who's the high school English teacher right now, but he also graduated from the program in 2017.
Yeah, and I have continued experience with the program by helping out at Brown Summer High School for the past 3 years, and currently teach in Providence. So I'm happy to answer any questions about Providence, about the summer component of the program, and the English cohort, which obviously Kevin can answer as well. I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment.
And so Carol is supposed to be joining us. She's a high school social studies teacher and a graduate of the MAT program this past year, but I'm sure she'll come connect when she can. And then Kevin Madoyan is our present MAT candidate in English, and he's our ambassador.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, I'm Kevin, as Diane said. I'm in the English cohort for the year, and I'm a fifth-year master's student, so I can also, like Kashmil, answer any questions about the program structure, offer student perspective into how this program has been going so far.
Wonderful. So in terms of who we are, I want to start out with our mission because I think it allows you to understand whether or not we're a good fit for you in terms of what we hope to accomplish and the types of teachers we hope to guide. So our master's program aims to prepare critical, impactful, and reflexive secondary teachers who demonstrate excellence in both their academic discipline and the multifaceted field of education. So we really are trying to achieve impact, but also excellence in the field of study as well as how you teach it. Did I go forward? Yes. No, I didn't. There we go. We also have an emphasis on social context, and it aims to produce teachers with deep understanding of social context of education and how they affect students, families, communities, and schools. And hopefully when you see the way that our program is designed, you'll see how we have ingrained this piece into the coursework and the experiences that our MATs will have. Next, our mission is about equity and achievement. It seeks to cultivate skills and commitments in pre-service teachers to improve student learning outcomes and promote equity in education. So as you see these pictures that I'm clicking through, these pictures, most of them are coming from our Brown Summer High School experience that I will talk more about in a little bit. And lastly, our program mission focuses on empathy and cultural competence. Graduates prepare to teach students in diverse communities with empathy and cultural competence that is based in critical reflection to continuously improve their own practice. So a little bit about us. We are focused on secondary education, and we have 4 branches of our program. We have English, science, social studies, and this will be our first year for mathematics. So we're super excited about starting our math program. I have it like this because in the next slide, we're going to start with the idea of having cohorts and really being very closely knit as a community. So our English cohort works very closely together, as will our math and science and social studies. But in the middle, there's the whole MAT experience too. So there are many different levels of community experience that you're going to get. Oops, I went forward too fast. That's fine. So one of the main pieces of our program is a small collaborative cohort model. We have mentoring and support from faculty, staff, local mentors, and peers from the beginning until the end. So you are never just a number, just a name. Everyone knows you really well, and you're getting support from all different parts of the university as well as local teachers. And maybe our guests, Kashmil or Kevin, can speak a little bit to this piece of our aspect.
Kashmir, you can go first.
Sure, yeah. So particularly right from the start of the program, the first semester begins in the summer, and that is our summer high school model, Brown Summer High School, in which you will be not only working very closely with a small cohort of similar content candidates in the program, but you'll also be matched with a mentor who is a teacher in the local community. And this is your first exposure not only with the students of Providence in sort of a great cross-section. We have over 40 schools that partner with us and send their students to Brown Summer High School for our 4-week program, but also the teachers from those schools come with the students. And one mentor teacher will be in the classroom with you at all times. For me personally, I came into the program without any classroom experience, and that was a really intensive support program, an intensive mentorship opportunity where I was able to get classroom experience without feeling daunted or overwhelmed with the enormity of that task, because there was intense mentorship during the class, and then after the class we would debrief. My mentor would tell me sort of about the different things that I did not yet have an eye to see in the program or in the class, and then would support with lesson planning for the next day. And that mentorship begins in the summer and continues throughout the year as well, as you are in a placement, a residency placement.
Yeah, I would totally like echo everything that Kashmir said. I think the small size of the program is what attracted me most to it, in that, as Kashmir said, you get a lot of direct attention from a personal mentor teacher. You also have direct relationships with the professor in your discipline. And not only that, but you also become a community with your other fellow cohort members, and you kind of become like a little family almost. And during the summer, you're not thrown into teaching on your own. You get to work with a partner who supports you, and you come up with lessons together, and you become pretty close throughout the process. So it's really supportive, collaborative, and I've only had good things to say about that aspect of the program.
And so my next bullet is already up, but we have a unique blend of university and residency-based teacher preparation. And throughout the whole year, we really focus on the integration of theory and practice and strong partnerships with local schools and districts. And how this will look is that instead of you taking methods, for example, one semester or in the summer and then teaching at another time, your methods and your teaching and all of the classwork will be based in actual teaching. So you can learn about something and then practice it in the classroom. And so there's a constant give and take between theory and practice where you come to experience it in the classroom. The other thing is that we're developing really strong partnerships with local schools and districts so that we will be placing clusters of students at a school. So you'll have this residency where you're working closely and getting to know the community of the school, but at the same time, you have other MATs with you to make sense of that experience in a seminar course that will meet weekly. We also are focusing on culturally responsive instruction throughout our curriculum and throughout the year. And this culturally responsive pedagogy and curriculum will show up in all of the courses you take. So it's not just one piece of, okay, so this is how you teach culture, how to be culturally responsive. It is, what does it mean to make assessments that are culturally responsive? What does it mean to develop curriculum that's culturally responsive? And so we are very committed to our urban students and really thinking about how our work can best meet them where they are and help them. And lastly, we have an engaged local and national alumni community. I'm going to actually go back to Kashmir for this one because he's one of our really engaged alumni. And do you want to say a little bit about how you've interacted with the alumni in the area?
Definitely. So one real strength while I was in the program was the fact that there were alumni, recent alumni that I could talk to who were still in Providence through every stage of my MAT experience. When I was placed in my practicum, my residency at a local high school here, I was able to talk to 2 or 3 alumni actually who were placed at the same school and had similar experiences. We were able to share experiences. They were able to help me with lesson planning. And then at the end of the program, because it's an 11-month program that's meant to prepare you for going directly into the classroom, I was able to reach out to the same alumni network in terms of networking to find a job, and was actually able to find and start my first teaching job a few days before graduating the MAT program. So not only is it a network that sort of helps you throughout the process, and the intentional small size helps you to continue to collaborate as you're learning the process of teaching, the art and the science of it, but also when you are going out into the workforce, into the work field, being able to access that network for looking for jobs and looking for different school experiences is also extremely helpful as well.
And many of our alumni actually serve as mentors for our students during their residency and during the summer program. So our candidates that, or graduates that stay in the area, really stay involved. And it goes back to, I think, what Kevin was saying, like it becomes like a family, like we end up working a lot together. So this is just going to be a quick summary of the experience in the program. So in the summer, Kashmir already mentioned, we have Brown Summer High School Practicum. And during that time, you would be taking a course in your discipline-specific methods course. So it's called Educational Theory and Practice 1, which is not as important, but there is one course for English, one course for math, one course for social studies, and one course for science. So you are working very specifically within your discipline, and they're not just general methods courses. You'd also be thinking about and learning about foundations of teaching and learning, theories about how students learn, and that would be in preparation for some of the required tests that the state mandates. In terms of what this experience is like, it's an intense collaboration and dialogue about teaching with a mentor and partner. So you are given a class to teach, but you're not by yourself. You have one or two partners, but usually it's a group of 2. And you have a local mentor that's by your side every day, reviewing your lessons and giving you feedback. We're also creating an engaging social justice curriculum that includes hands-on project-based learning, and we're working with students from Providence, Central Falls, and local communities that are really looking for an enrichment experience. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the summer component, Kevin or Kashmir?
I don't think so, no.
I think that covers it really well.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Next, we move into the fall, and there's a part-time residency in the morning. So in our newly designed program, you would actually be placed right at the beginning of the year, participate in professional development with the other teachers at the start of the school year, and you would be in the schools for the day part of the day. So from approximately 7:30, 8 o'clock when school starts up until about 11 noon time. And then in the afternoon, there would be courses that you would be taking that are based in community assets, learning about what the assets are and taking on an asset-based lens towards the community, learning how to work with English language learners, special education, and then you're also, again, taking another discipline-specific methods course in order to think about the pedagogy of teaching science, for example, or teaching mathematics. You'd be taking a class in instructional design and technology, and then also a weekly practicum seminar where you get together with the rest of the MAT candidates in your cluster to talk about your experience in the residence. And then in the spring, you'd be in the full-time residency. So you'd be in your schools all day long. At this point, you would be taking over the full responsibility of 2 to 3 courses, depending on the course load of your teacher and school, with the support of your mentor, of course. Your mentor is with you from the fall all the way through the spring. At this point though, you already know your school, you already know your students. This is now you taking on more responsibility. So it's a progressive takeover. You're not just being thrown into a classroom to teach. You, by the time you get to the spring, should know your students in your community very well. You take some courses in the afternoon. We would continue working on how to work with English language learners, focus more on assessment and data, and then again, another discipline-specific methods course and the practicum seminar where you're talking about your experience in the school. As you can see from the bottom of the slide, there's a capstone project. Throughout the year, you'll be investigating yourself. So in the summer, you're thinking about your own context, your own philosophy of teaching. In the fall, you're learning about your community context in your classroom. And in the spring, you're learning about, okay, how do I build curriculum? How do I use assessment to inform my instruction? And so the capstone are key pieces throughout each segment of the program that allows you to think about your teaching, be reflective. So that's one of our key things, is how do you become a reflective teacher that's constantly learning and moving forward?
There's one thing I could add.
Yes.
I think that I really want to underscore the importance of learning the community and that gradual model where you are learning the students and learning the community before taking on that full responsibility yourself. I myself am not someone who is from Rhode Island or even really knew much about Rhode Island before coming to Brown, but I decided to stay in Rhode Island and have been teaching here for 3 years now, partly because the program has given me such an immersive look at our community and has really captivated me with the spirit of the young people that are here. There's a wide variety of different opportunities here that you'll see at Brown Summer High School. When first seeing all different students from various schools coming together, and then having the different experiences within your cohort. My own practice was at a charter school in the south side of Providence, so right in our urban core. But my teaching partner from Brown Summer High School, who's also in my cohort, did his practicum at a private school or independent school, also in Providence, not very far from here. And so the different experiences that we were able to share and collaborate and compare really helped widen the experience and kind of give me a large scope of the opportunities here in education in Providence. But then also our alumni also do branch out all over the world, going back to their own home communities or elsewhere in the country and in the world. But there is a strong core of us who have felt really strongly about Providence from our time here and have continued to stay.
So at this point, I'm actually going to take a minute just to stop and see if there's anyone who has any questions about what we've said so far, especially about this part of the program. Is there something that you'd like clarification on before we continue to the next section? So I'm going to take that as a no. You're still welcome. Oh, we have one. Okay, so one of the questions is, I'm curious to learn more about how you're placed in a residency and how much say you have in that placement. So that's a really good question. So the cohort that comes in, let's say it's the science cohort. I oversee the members of my science cohort, which are 6 right now. In the summer, I partner them and decide which mentor they'll have in the summertime. After I see them teaching and also talk to them about their goals and what they hope to do in the future, then I look at what mentors we have in the area, and it's almost like a match.com, but it's a diane.match.com. I end up matching the students with the mentor, and up until now, the matches have been really productive. And so, but that happens with a conversation before the end of the summer in order for us to have a good idea of what makes sense. Also, I think students have different needs from mentors. Like there's some students who really benefit from having a mentor that's super organized and can think about how to help organize. There's others who need a mentor that's way more like laid back and flexible. So when I say it is kind of a match.com, it really is tailored to not only the needs of the candidate, but also what their goals are in the future. I do want to stress, though, that our program is focused on urban context. So our urban contexts right now are either public schools, which Providence Public Schools District is part of our partnership, but we also have a couple of charter schools that we're working with as well. That gets more nuanced, and I think that's more than I need to get into right now, but you're always welcome to reach out to me if you have more specific questions. Great, and so let's look at, can you speak more about the emphasis on ELL? Why 2 semesters on focus on it? Is it a core value of the program? That's a great question, thank you. So the English language learner component is actually not a full credit each semester, it's half a credit each semester. And what we thought was that it was actually important, given that many of our districts have a large ELL population, to have that support throughout the year. So it's a half credit course in the fall, half credit course in the spring, and that support happens throughout the year. Also, we are working towards having our candidates have an ELL endorsement. It's not a full certification, but in the state of Rhode Island, we're moving towards allowing for endorsement. So it basically would be a certification that also says, I have the knowledge and the preparation to be able to work with English language learners within the context of my discipline. So we're working towards that. We don't have that endorsement at this point because the state just set out guidelines for that, but we're moving towards that. What if you are currently working at a Providence school already? So that's something that definitely is something you should reach out to me about because that's a special case that is less, getting into it right now wouldn't make much sense. But please feel free to reach out to me. The Match.com joke, thanks. Questions and question answer tab also, yes. And so there will be questions later on. I just wanted to make sure that everybody has a chance to get clarification, especially in this. Is there opportunity to take language classes to supplement the ELL? Not within our program, but there are ways to take additional language classes in other ways, but it wouldn't be within the structure of our program because our program is actually 8 credits and very, very intense. So to actually add more to your plate, that would be something you'd want to do on your own, but we're not going to demand more within this intensive program. So thank you for those questions. I'm going to continue on with the requirements. In terms of admissions, there is a transcript analysis that we can do for you. We expect that the candidates, applicants either have a bachelor's of arts in their discipline, if we're talking about English or social studies, or equivalent. So if you're going into English, that would mean usually there's about 8 courses or 30 units in the study of literature and language in English. Coursework in American literature, British literature, American ethnic literature, as well as other things like maybe film, etc. And you also need to submit an academic writing sample. In social studies, it's a little bit more nuanced, right? Because there's many different disciplines that you can have a degree in that would fit under the social studies umbrella. So we ask that you have some distinct courses in different areas because these are the areas you would be required to teach. And so we're looking for background in history, not only American, but non-Western, Western European. And then the praxis exam for the state as well requires that you have a background in economics, geography. And so while it's okay, for example, to have a bachelor's degree in political science, we would also expect to see some coursework in history and the other subjects that I've shown. Not to say that you necessarily have everything, but they're, especially in the histories and civilizations, you should have some background in them. Okay. For the math and science, we expect either a bachelor's of arts or science or equivalent in the discipline you're expecting to teach. Oh, and if I could go back, I don't know if I can, yes. If you'd like someone to review your transcript, and her information will be at the end of the slides, Laura A. Snyder is the faculty member who's analyzing the transcripts in English and social studies. I'm the person who's analyzing the transcripts in math and social studies. So mathematics, these are the main topics that we would expect. But again, the main thing is that you have a Bachelor of Arts or Science in mathematics. And then same is true for the other sciences. For sciences, you'd have a degree in biology, degree in chemistry, or a degree in physics, engineering. And we would expect to see, again, a broad understanding of that discipline. So I see the question that came up in terms of social studies, in terms of experience teaching in social studies, does that make up for some of the course requirements? So that is definitely something to reach out to us directly so that we can have a better understanding of what that means specific for you. So admissions requirements, we have a transcript from your undergraduate institution, your personal statement. A writing sample is only required for English applicants. Letters of recommendation. Experience. So we don't need you to have experience in the classroom per se, but we would like to see that you've actually engaged with adolescents in some way, like in some teaching. So you may have been a tutor, or you may have done like breakthrough in the summertime, but having some experience working with adolescents is really something that we think has been helpful in having us understand your approach to education and teaching. There will be an interview for qualified applicants. So once we reviewed your applications, we will then send out requests for interviews. And then financial aid forms, if applying for need-based aid, this is something that also should be done at the same time that you're doing the rest of your application materials, because the deadline for all of these is the same time. The only one that's later is the interview, which would happen after the deadline of January 15th. And there it is. So in terms of financial aid, the tuition for this year was this, right? So there's 8 courses, so it came out to $57,000 for the 8 courses. And the tuition for next year hasn't been established yet, but usually goes up 3 to 5%. All applicants would automatically be considered for merit-based tuition support. All applicants may also apply for need-based scholarships. And these scholarships can take on the full cost of tuition, include living stipends, and include health fees and health insurance. So depending on the need, all of that gets put into some type of formula at financial aid office, and we would then make an offer that can include all these 3 things or some mix of these things. To apply for institutional need-based aid, as well as federal forms, you would need to complete the FAFSA form, including Section 4 of the parental income. And there'll be a supplemental education department form as well, which will be online. And if it's not online yet, it will be online soon. So the financial forms I'm mentioning, the first one is the FAFSA form, which is a requirement. And then there'll be a supplemental form as well, that if you have issues finding it, you can also reach out to Kelsey, which will be at the end of the slideshow, her information. You can reach out to the department and we'll make sure that you have the right form up and above the FAFSA form. But the FAFSA form is your initial form if you're asking for need-based aid that needs to be completed. Absolutely. So I just got a question about can we review your transcript if you've already started putting in an application? That's absolutely fine. Just reach out to Laura Snyder if you're English Social Studies, or reach out to me, and we'll definitely give you feedback on your transcript. Also, for math and science applicants, we have an Urban Education Fellowship. This program provides full tuition and support in the form of loan forgiveness through the university. Upon earning the MAT, the UEF recipients are required to teach 3 years in an urban school in Rhode Island that meets the following criteria: qualifies for federal funds, more than 30% of school enrollment must be made up of children from low-income families. So we work towards helping you get a job in these schools. And the most important thing here is that it is a 3-year commitment. And so if you're interested in the fellowship, you can make that clear in your application, and also during the interview, and you would be considered for this. We have so many that we can give the offer. The main thing, though, is there is this commitment. If the 3 years are not served and you decide you don't want to stay in Rhode Island or teach in urban school, then the tuition has to be paid back. So this is a commitment and something you should think about, but it is there for, I have 4 UEFs in my science cohort right now. And I mean, it's a great opportunity, but you have to want to stay in the area. That's okay. So certification, after completing our program successfully and the required praxis exams, candidates will receive initial certification to teach their subject in grades 7 through 12 from the Rhode Island Department of Education. We in Rhode Island are part of the National Association of State Directors of Teacher Education Certification Interstate Agreement, which allows graduates reciprocity, basically. So I can get, actually, my certification for secondary came from Massachusetts. When I moved to want to teach in Rhode Island, I sent my certification to Rhode Island. Rhode Island gave me the reciprocity. So I then became certified in Rhode Island. So some states require an additional test, like for example, Massachusetts requires that you take the additional MPELs. But if you want more information, you can click on that website once you get the slides from Kelsey as a follow-up. Just to say. Yes, and so if I go back quickly, somebody's asking if the fellowship is only for science and math teachers. Yes, at this point it is. And the reason for that is because the requirement to teach in Rhode Island schools is mandated, and science and math are the greatest needs right now in our urban district. And so we pretty much know that we can make sure that students will have a position when they graduate. And right now in social studies and history, there are positions open, but it's less of a guarantee that we know before they even leave, they will have a position. So it's just wanting to make sure that we also can provide the positions when the student graduates in order to fulfill the obligation. So our local community, Providence, Rhode Island, like you're not just coming to Brown, you're coming to Rhode Island and Providence. And so I think there's a lot of great things here. I've lived here basically all my life, so I must find some things good about it. One of the things that I love the most about it is it's a very diverse community. It's very vibrant, not only in the different languages that are spoken, foods that you smell, like everything is very vibrant and diverse. And so I really appreciate that about the community. And it's a big enough city that it's city, but it's not so big that you get lost. So Kashmir, why don't you speak a little to that?
Yeah, so one of the things that definitely captivated me about Rhode Island and wanting to stay in Providence was the diversity. And I think the more that I was able to engage with the community. As a disclaimer, I was also here for 4 years at Brown as an undergrad, but didn't have many interactions with the community through my undergraduate studies, except for some work that I did with adolescents, which was actually through a local church here. And that connected me to the Olneyville district of Providence, which was a really vibrant and dynamic community that I had never experienced in the places that I've lived before coming here. And in the sort of Brown Summer High School experience, I sort of mentioned that being a cross section. There are about 40 different schools that partner with us. All of those students are sort of intentionally mixed in the classrooms that you will be teaching in. So one English class may have students from private schools, from different public schools in the area, students coming from Central Falls, which is a smaller community that is very close to Providence in our urban core as well. And all those students and all of those communities come together in a very brilliant way. And the MAT program sort of helps you to stay aware of that community and especially the needs that come to that community, especially speaking to the emphasis on English language learners. I'm seeing that myself. At my school, there's a higher influx coming in our incoming ninth graders. And so we really keep a strong pulse on the community and what we need and what the present needs are. Beyond that, Providence is just a beautiful, beautiful place to be. As you can see in the photo there, we have a Providence River that runs sort of around, very close to Brown. They have wonderful events there. This water fire event where the entire river is sort of like lit with fire. It's much more exciting than I just described it as. The food comes from all over the world. I am experiencing a new dish every week, basically, and I've lived here 8 years now. And the city of Providence is small enough, but if you're eager for like a big city experience, Boston is very close. It's only an hour away, and then New York City is just another couple hours beyond that. So for me, it gives a good balance of big city, but also small community and diversity.
How about you, Kevin?
Well, I'm actually a native Rhode Islander, so I've seen Providence as a kid, and I've also went to Brown, so I've experienced Providence for a lot of years now. And yeah, I would just echo everything that Diane and Kashmir said. It's like a wonderful community to be. I love how small it is because I've actually like run into some of my students just like at grocery stores and like at cafes in the city. So it's like that. It's that type of community where like you can run into someone you know on the street, and it's a really good place to be. And yeah, there's a lot of good food. I will definitely echo the food thing.
So next steps, I would say reach out to the designated teacher education faculty member to have them review your disciplinary coursework, or if you have any questions. Also, I would encourage you to participate in community-based teaching experience focused on adolescents, just so you can even get a feeling for whether or not you like working with adolescents, right? That's, I think, very important. Visit the How to Apply webpage and you'll have the link here, and then apply with all the materials by January 15th. So now we're gonna open up for any questions you may have in general, or things that you think Kashmir and Kevin can respond to.
I'm just looking in the Q&A section. It looks like we have a couple.
Oh, great.
Ahmed, I hope that we answered your question about working at a current Providence high school
So
already.
I was reading them as we were going along.
Yeah,
So that one I didn't
too.
see. Great. So
Yeah.
you have a different chat than I do. Perfect.
It's the Q&A section down here.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
I don't have it down there. So one of the questions was, is the summer program necessary? Yes, the summer program is necessary. Our program is 3 parts. The first part actually prepares you for the other 2 parts and is the part where you actually get to develop curriculum that is project-based. And so when you get into your school, typically there's already curriculum written for you, and you're working within the school system. Brown summer high school is a place for you to really think about the most innovative ways to develop curriculum that is very student-centered and project-based. So that element is something that is a requirement in our program. Great.
And I think we answered this question, but it looks like there's a new question in the additional chat.
Great. Oh, super. So I'm curious about the Capstone project. Great. Could you speak a little bit more about what it looks like? Is it comparable to a thesis? So it is not a thesis in that you would be writing this big report. Let me pull up my book and we can, if I don't do a good job of this, you definitely should reach out to me and I can explain this more. But in the summer, you're developing your philosophy of teaching and starting to reflect on your teaching and on yourself. So what does this say about who I am as a teacher? I'm thinking about your identity, especially as many of our candidates end up working in communities that have students who may not be similar to them. And so thinking about really like biases and other things that we sometimes just take for granted. So the summertime, the Capstone really is thinking about what do you think about your philosophy of teaching as a baseline, because it definitely develops over the year and over the trajectory of a career, but then also thinking about how does your own experience influence the way that you approach your teaching. In the fall, you'd be doing an autoethnography, thinking again more about that, and then contextualizing your learners and learning. So you're in your residency, we ask you to shadow a student, for example, for a full day, to understand like what does the day of a student that I'm gonna be teaching looks like? What are the demands on their day? What does it feel like to be in the building, moving from class to class? We also expect you to be looking at classroom characteristics, understanding the school and district characteristics and resources, and thinking about family and community context. Even thinking about like how does the school communicate with parents? How does the school get parents involved? And then in the spring, you'll look into the literature and start really trying to focus on a question of interest to you that has to do with your teaching, and you're developing a unit of instruction, planning, assessment, and reflection. So it's really thinking about that last piece about how do you kind of tie everything together and now think about how you're having an impact on your students. At the end of the year, you then will present your findings and your work to your cohort, as well as we have a conference where you would be running a roundtable. And so for 20 to 30 minutes, you would be taking a piece of that capstone and sharing it not only with the cohort members, but also we invite local community members like mentor teachers, administrators, other professors in the education department for you to share what you've learned. I hope I've done justice to that, but please reach out more if you have any questions on that. Would it be possible to follow up the MAT program with the UEP Masters the year after? I don't see why that wouldn't be a possibility. Typically, though, I think there would be benefit to possibly teaching in a school first before doing UEP, but I can have you enter in contact with the director of UEP and get his take on what he would think about that. Is there a way to blend structural and practical learning in reference to the UEP and MAT? So I'm not exactly sure what the question I would, is there a way to blend structural and practical learning in reference to a UEP and MAT? So our UEPs and MATs will be getting together to talk across what's happening in the classroom and what's happening in policy, but I'm not sure if I'm actually responding to that. So I would ask you please to reach out to me, and we could even talk over the phone more directly so that I can fully understand the question. How long would the summer program be? What is the schedule like? Great question. So summer program begins, I want to say it's June 15th. It's a Monday in June. Let me just pull up my calendar quickly. Yes, June 15th. And you would be in your courses, the methods course and foundations of teaching and learning from the 15th up until the 1st. And in that time, you would be learning how to teach your discipline and developing curriculum with your partner and your mentor teacher. And so the summer is looking at that point, you're coming in at about 8 and you're leaving at about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and basically you're working with methods. The first week, there's some orientation pieces as well, some workshops on professional conduct, etc. But for the most part, that June period is preparing to teach. In July, it's going to start on July 6th through July 29th, that's Brown Summer High School. So you would be teaching one course, which is about 2 hours long in Brown Summer High School. You would be preparing for it, and then every day you would teach a lesson for that course. And you'd have approximately 16 to 22 students in your class. And you would be teaching, as I said, in a group of 2 with a mentor in the room with you at all times. And so that day typically looks like starting at about 7:30, ending at about noontime, 12:30, and then going to a class in the afternoon. And then there are 2 days at the end of July, 30th and 31st, where we kind of wrap everything up. And then the first week of August, you're just pulling together your digital portfolio and doing putting everything together in your digital portfolio. So that doesn't have to be on campus. That one is, that can be wherever you want it to be. If admissions letters tend to go out approximately 4 to 8 weeks after the admission deadline, when would we generally be contacted for an interview? Are individuals only contacted if being strongly considered for admission? So the admissions letters will go out, like you said, about 4 to 8 weeks after. Our deadline is the 15th. Interviews will happen around, and I actually have dates for you, 24th, 27th, 28th, 29th. So end of January, you would expect to be having interviews. And the interviews is for anyone that we see qualifies in terms of transcript analysis, letters of recommendations. Everything's in, everything checks out, then we have an interview. But for example, let's say we had a transcript where somebody wanted to enter the physics program, and I know this is going to seem extreme, but didn't major in physics, may have a lot of other pieces that are there, like that person wouldn't qualify from the transcript analysis, so we wouldn't have an interview. But if all the documents are in place and we've seen that this is a person who qualifies, then they will get an interview. Popular topic that's come up with my interest in teaching is teacher burnout. Does the program, residency, or mentorship have resources to address this area? Teacher burnout.
I could address that question.
Thanks.
Yeah, so teacher burnout is something that's very real and something that I've studied as well in sort of my preparation for teaching and as well as being a teacher my first few years, especially as a Black male. The turnover rate or burnout rate is extremely high, and there's usually a trend of Black male teachers not staying in the profession beyond 3 to 5 years. And so that was a huge concern for me in terms of wondering how sustainable the job is for me as an educator and also as a person of color. And so what I did throughout the program was through the intense mentoring experience that I had from local teachers and from my experience connecting to the network of alumni in the area, I was able to sort of get coached and supported in understanding how burnout happens, what to look for in a school placement to make sure that I'm in a sustainable environment, not only for my students, but for myself as well. And was given the resources not only through the network, but also through my director in terms of helping me to find an appropriate placement, again, the match.com. Those were sort of the tools that helped me to identify sort of my own needs as an educator and as a person of color in the classroom to understand sort of what would allow me to continue being successful in the career beyond that 3 to 5 year mark. So that is a very important and intentional part of the program and in communicating with the network.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the cohort model is so powerful, is that you're not here by yourself. And sometimes I think in the career, which I was a high school teacher for 19 years, like you can feel really isolated, like you're in it by yourself. But I think our program has done a really strong job of having you understand that you are part of a larger community, and that I think can address some of the issues with burnout. As a third year undergrad at the university, what do my next steps look like? So if you are still an undergraduate, not a senior, I would definitely reach out to one of the directors, either myself for science, math, or Laura for social studies, English, and we can talk through in terms of coursework might be nice steps. Definitely, as I said, get some experience or get even more experience working with adolescents in an educational setting. And it can be an informal setting. It doesn't have to be like a school specifically, but any experience that you can get, I think, is really useful. You mentioned earlier that the market for humanities teachers isn't as competitive as the market for STEM. What resources does the MIT provide to ensure that their humanities cohorts are placed full-time after graduating? So while I said that, we have not had issues, I think, actually placing humanities in schools. It's just the schools that we are serving particularly, that is their most intense need. And so at the beginning of the year, there were several schools that still needed math and science teachers. And so we're meeting the need of our community. Carol, who unfortunately couldn't meet with us, is teaching in Providence Public School District, and she is a social studies teacher. So it's not to say that our students aren't finding placements or able to teach, but because we cannot guarantee that it's going to happen in one of those high need schools that we were referring to. It could happen in a suburban school, it could happen in a private school. Because that loan forgiveness is so unforgiving, we really didn't feel that we were doing the best by our candidates, making that a possibility and not being able to really guarantee a position in order to make sure that that was met. And so that's what I meant. It's not we have a humanities person actually who ended up in Providence, another social studies person who's in Providence, and we have another English student who's, I believe, in PPSD, but it's not at Hope, it's a different school. So it's not that we can't place them, it's that we're not sure that they're actually going to end up in the urban districts that they have to be in. And because of that uncertainty, we want to make sure that we are not putting people in a position where they can't fulfill their commitment. I hope that helps. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add, as an English cohort member, all of the humanities educators, and I believe all candidates who come through the MAT program go out into the workforce as highly qualified candidates or highly qualified educators, which does definitely add to your appeal in the job market. And from my cohort, and I've sort of kept in touch with Laura, the director for English, with the cohorts that have followed after me, I believe that all of us have been placed at full-time positions, if not sort of within those first few weeks after the program or in the last few months of the spring semester. By the following school year, everyone's found a place.
Everyone who wanted one. So there were some people who wanted to take a year off in order to just, in terms of like they had been in education for a long time, not recruited for the program. But it's, that's why. But if you have more questions about that early WEF, you definitely can reach out to me and I can be more specific. So I think I've gotten to all the questions. Yeah?
As I've been looking, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Is there anyone else? So I'm gonna give it a minute because we're actually approaching 9 o'clock. This was like one of the quickest hours of my life. This is my first time doing one of these info sessions online. So I really thank you all for your attention and your interest in the program. I do want you to reach out to us if you have any questions. And that's one of the things I think that really is a distinguishing part of our program, is that we're here to really respond to your needs. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because I mean, that's why we're here. We're here to help you reach your goal to be the best teacher that you want to be. And that's all. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I thank Kashmil and I thank Kevin, because they are really great representatives of our program. So here's some contact information. If you have just general questions about the application process, Kelsey Powell is the better person to contact, and she doesn't think it's for her and it's for me. She just forwards it to me anyway. If you have math and science inquiries, definitely reach out to me. Laura will take the English and social studies inquiries, and then Kevin, he is our ambassador. So I think he takes whatever you want him to answer, right?
Yeah.
Especially like some people may have questions about housing or questions about the area or what it's like to be a graduate student at Brown. Like, definitely reach out to Kevin.
Yeah.
And if you want to speak to some alumni in a specific discipline or current students in a specific discipline, reach out to me and I will contact someone.
I also just dropped my email in the chat function in case anyone wants to reach out to me as a recent alum of the program and talk about what the work environment, the full-time environment is like in Providence.
Thank you so much. So I guess this is all. It was a true pleasure. I wish you all a wonderful night and a fantastic week. Thank you for everyone who's saying thank you. And it's really just, even though I didn't see you, I feel like hopefully there were people out there, right? Yeah. All right. I'm awkward, but I'm a good person. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Eve, for setting it all up. Okay.